I've had the LS2 Powered C6 Corvette for just about a year and a half. And in that time, I have determined that the engine is in solid running condition and ready for some carefully chosen modifications.
Toys for life.
Shortly after purchasing this LS2 Powered C6, I noticed that the intake air temperatures of air going into the engine were quite a bit higher on average than the air temps that I was seeing on the supercharged C5. And when I opened up the hood of the C6, it was pretty easy to see that the design of the LS2's air intake system was pulling that air from up high, where air is hottest in the engine bay, and that is not ideal for horsepower production. I did some extensive testing and determined that the air filter assembly actually flowed quite well, but the fact that it was pulling in all of this hot air from up high was holding it back, as well as the fact that all of that air was forced to go through an old school 85mm mass airflow sensor. Then I started thinking about the fact that the 2008 and newer LS3 powered C6s had a completely redesigned air filter intake system, including a card-style mass airflow sensor that solved both of these problems. It gets even better. All of the C6 Z06s use this new and improved air filter assembly as well, and you can pick these up on eBay for typically around $200 or less, and then you can pick up the newer free-flowing card-style mass airflow sensor for around 60 bucks. The card-style mass airflow sensor simply installs in the side of the air intake assembly. Now this new setup will absolutely need to be retuned to run it all in your C6 LS2, but it's not that hard. You simply need to rescale the mass airflow sensor and make changes to the intake air temperature tables inside the tune. Should only cost a few $100s by a competent tuner, or if you already happen to own HP tuners and your C6 is already licensed, you can do it yourself for free. The best parts about doing this modification first is that it gives you a few more horsepower by pulling in that cool air down low. It also gives you more horsepower at wide open throttle due to the freer flowing card style mass airflow sensor. And number 3, it sets you up for future and more aggressive modifications down the road. Once I got the LS3, LS7 air intake system installed, tuned, and dialed in, I took it to the drag strip to get some quarter-mile baseline data, and it ran 113.98 miles per hour, which is pretty good when you compare it to the stock LS2 quarter-mile list that's published on the CorvetteForum.com. I find this list to be a very good source of real-world data as to what stock LS2 powered C6s are running all across the country, not corrected for air temperature, pressure, elevation, or even driver skill. As a reminder, I'm generally only concerned about the mile per hour because it is absolutely a function of the weight of the car and the amount of horsepower that the engine is producing, whereas the elapsed time is more of a function of having good drag radial tires, a prep track, and a driver that can execute a great launch without spinning the tires. Now it was time for the LS2's second modification, and this time I wanted something that was proven to add horsepower, easy to install, created zero drivability issues, and set the car up even further for future, more extensive modifications. The fast LSXR 102 intake manifold checked all of those boxes, and with a few clicks of the mouse, soon enough, the intake was in my shop and ready for installation. I made a couple of extensive step-by-step videos of how to install the fast intake, and soon I was back at the drag strip where the car ran a new best of 115.64 miles per hour. The addition of the fast intake put my mile per hour above all of the cars on the Corvette Forum stock LS2 list, which it should, but now what I really wanted to know was, how does my slightly modified LS2 powered C6's new and improved quarter-mile speeds compared to C6s that are powered by the mighty 6.2-liter LS3 engine? To find out, I went back to CorvetteForum.com and I pulled up their stock LS3 powered C6 quarter-mile list, and I've imported all of the data from this list into my spreadsheet, which I've sorted by mile per hour. Now let's add my LS2 powered C6's first trip to the track In green, where I only had the modified LS3, LS7 air intake assembly with updated card-style mass airflow sensor. The good news is I actually made the list, but as you can see, I'm clearly in the mix with some of the slower LS3 powered C6s. Now let's add my C6's second trip to the track after the fast intake manifold installation, and as you can see, I am now faster than 19 of the 37 cars on the list, and if you remove my 2 times from the list and average the numbers that remain, you get an average speed of 115.82 miles per hour, which means my slightly modified LS2 powered C6 is essentially as fast as the average LS3 powered C6, which isn't bad. Now the point of all these videos and exercises is that the LS2 powered C6 is the most produced variant of the C6, and that means there's a lot of guys out there like you and me that have one in your garage. And since the LS3 is slightly newer and makes a little bit more horsepower, the LS2 tends to get dismissed by the crowd, which is fine, and they forget the fact that the LS2 and the LS3 are extremely close in power output and reliability. And if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't have even considered purchasing a C6 with the LS2 engine. So at this time, it's important to kind of set a goal, otherwise you really don't know where you're going. So my goal for the LS2 powered C6 is to achieve a quarter-mile speed of 120 miles per hour. I came up with this magic number for 3 reasons. If I'm able to achieve 120 miles per hour in the quarter mile, I think it objectively documents the fact that the LS2 powered C6 is now significantly faster than it was in stock form, and that's enough power to feel every single time that I drive the C6, and that'll definitely increase the enjoyment factor. Second, I'm not trying to build a dragster, nor am I trying to set any records. I want this build to remain 100% streetable with minimal, if any, drivability issues. So in my mind anyway, once you get to enough horsepower to materially exceed 120 miles per hour in the quarter mile, the rate of trade-offs like reliability, drivability, and fuel economy, they start to increase at an increasing rate. Now I could be wrong, and perhaps 120 miles per hour is not the magic line where you get the best power with the minimal number of trade-offs. And if you think that line is in a different place, let us know in the comments below as to where you think it is and why you feel that way. I would really love to read your opinions and your experiences. And number 3, and I've said this before, if I was after a major gain of somewhere around, say, 200 horsepower to the rear tires, I would start with an A&A Supercharger Kit because in my view, it is by far the cheapest way per horsepower to achieve something major like a 200 horsepower gain. And in addition to that, you seriously retain about 99% of stock drivability. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please tap that thumbs up, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and I'll see you next time.